Hey everybody, what's up? Just Ehren here, Question Period Canada. Something that we have not done in far too long is engage with the Senate. We haven't done that since before Christmas. I think maybe it was before Christmas the last time we did a Senate episode, a live broadcast. So what we'll be reviewing here is from the Senate Business Committee. And I have not seen this yet, so I don't really know what to expect. I know that the committee meetings, you can gain a lot of knowledge and insight during those. So let's see what they've got for us. Hopefully it's going to be pretty good. Let's get it going. So I'm not sure which platform we want to use. We can use this one. We can use the old school one, or we can use this reaction display. So if anybody happens to be watching, let me know in the comments which view you prefer, because I can stay out of the way here.
Welcome back.
Hey, Boo, what's up?
The holiday break. J'espère que tout le monde va bien.
I hope you're all going well. So we'll pick up where we left off. The Committee on Rules, Procedures and the Rights of Parliament. Today we have a rather technical meeting coming up regarding a number of changes we are contemplating making to our committee. We do have a quorum. My name is Diane Bellemare. I'm the Senator from Quebec.
They have a quorum.
Chair of this committee. And if possible, I'd just like senators to introduce themselves as usual and indicate which province you come from. I'll start on my right-hand side. Senator.
Marie-Françoise Mégy, province de Québec.
My name's Bev Bussin, a senator from British Columbia.
Raymond Saint-Germain, sénatrice du Québec.
Rob Black, Ontario.
Stan Couture, Nova Scotia.
Hey.
PIERRE Traguette, Nouveau-Brunswick.
Yuan Paul Wu from British Columbia.
Ratna Omid-Farr, Ontario.
David Wells, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Denise Batters, Saskatchewan, Deputy Chair.
Michael McDonald, Nova Scotia.
Merci beaucoup. Alors,
Thank you very much. It's my understanding that Senator Wu would like to take the floor.
Chair, it's my great honor to have served as Deputy Chair on this committee, but I would now like to relinquish a position and nominate the Honourable Stan Couture as Vice Chair.
vous êtes rapide.
You're very quick. Everyone's so quick today. Thank you very much. But before we proceed, I would like to take a moment to thank you, Senator Wu, for your active involvement on this committee. I think that, well, you have a particular interest, of course, in the Rules Committee, and you were very much involved in helping to modernize the Senate.
How happy she is.
You were there from the very beginning when we had several groups that were struck for senators. A warm thanks on behalf of everyone. I do hope that you remain with us, even though you're no longer going to be Deputy or Vice Chair of the committee, and you'll participate fulsomely in the debate.
Alors, sans... Oui. Oui. Alors,
Senator Wu, is it the pleasure of senators to adopt the motion that Senator Stanley Couture now sit as at the steering committee as Vice Chair? I hope that it's a pleasure for you as well to hold this position, Senator.
They're all so pleasant.
Alors, c'est adopté. Alors...
Carried. Thank you very much, Senator.
Anybody know offhand how much a senator makes? I don't. I'm guessing it's about $350,000. I don't know.
Well,
I have no
we'll
idea.
A steering committee
Maybe I'll
meeting
look.
after this meeting. Senator Couture.
Everyone for your support, and I certainly won't be able to fill Senator Wu's shoes, but I will do my very best to at least put my toe into them. Thank you.
Senators, just for the record and to be clear, that would now make the steering committee of this committee Senatrice Bellemare as chair, Senator Batters as deputy chair, Senator Couture as deputy chair, and Senator Green would remain the fourth member of the steering committee.
Okay. Alors, la réunion va être courte aujourd'hui. Il s'agit d'adopter.
Today's meeting will be quite short today. We just have to adopt our report
Okay.
that you've received. The full text of the report. Yes.
Did you say Greenwood or Green?
Green.
You said Greenwood.
I believe I said Senator Green would be the fourth member.
They're all so silly.
Okay, we'll let you away with that.
Alors, bon.
Well, all jokes aside, you've received the final version of the report that sums up all the testimony that we heard regarding the structure and mandate of the committee. As you can see, there's no title yet.
Now, so what I propose is that we go quickly, page by page, to say if it's okay. I noticed certain little coquilles, qu'on dit en français,
Typos.
version, and in the French version. So, and I look at the English, and there may be one or two little things I would like to
I've got some information.
correct or change with your agreement. So, number, I don't have much, but it's about 4 places where
They make
we could,
$340,000.
discussion.
That's
So we'll
their
go page by
salary, so
page
the
quickly.
internet tells me.
And if you have any comment on any of those pages, and then when we'll go through the document, after that, we will propose a title for this document. Okay? So we will go page 3. There's nothing there. Table of content. Yes, Senator Batters?
Thank you. On this, just there's a spacing issue which I can show the people who did this later, but also line 7 where it says the committee
She's a
membership,
tough
and then
lady,
under
this
that
one.
it says the honorable senators. Can we just put instead of that, could we put something like senators who participated or something like that instead of the honorable senators?
Or I think we could just remove that for the purposes of the table of contents. On the page, there is committee membership. There are the honorable senators, and then on the second page of that, there are other senators who have participated. So I don't know if we need to make a distinction for the table of contents.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's just what was marked as a heading in the document, so we can certainly correct that.
Okay.
Okay. So page 3 is done. 4, 5, 6. Yes, Senator Batters?
On this one, so for the other senators who have participated in this study, what I wondered about this is usually for a committee study, if this would just list senators who took part as members of the committee, and even if they participated only for like one meeting or something like that. But here I noticed that there's a number of senators who participated by being witnesses, and they're already
Hey, Chance, what's
listed
up?
as witnesses.
Dime
at the
bag,
back of
everybody,
this in the
Mubu.
appendix, as being witnesses.
got Brent in the
I think
house.
that's, a better way to set them out. I think that any senators who only participated as witnesses and not as members of this committee should be only in that appendix part and not as part of this, because it's confusing, because there are a number of parts in this study where it says that some members of Rules Committee, and then it's of course, it's not named who those people are, but those senators would be more properly identified in
I
that way.
agree. I was wondering too about that. Okay,
Hey, Bob, what's up?
good. Page
How are you?
7. Good. Page 8. Yes.
So.
So
you've got the
pleasant.
only- like the order of reference is obviously, we're just relying on our very general order of reference, just being, and then I'm not sure, does it deserve a whole page? It looks actually like something is missing.
No, I understand that, Senator. This is the standard template used for committee reports, and in most committees, they're relying on an order of reference. It's usually something with quite a bit more detail, providing the scope of that. With the Rules Committee, we are relying on our authority under the rules. I'm in your hands. Is it even necessary to have this this page? And it's an easy thing to remove. Or we could add perhaps a little more explanation, just that the Rules Committee has an inherent
Yeah.
authority pursuant to this rule to
I think
Examine
that's a
things.
good idea to do, and perhaps not have it as an entire page, because then
Okay.
it just looks like something is
Because in the
missing.
text, it is already, it says that this committee has the order of preference to do anything from what it wants. So maybe,
Okay. So, Senators, I can write something up, and I could present it perhaps to the steering committee to approve that final text. And as far as pagination goes, I think
Yeah, they
certainly
do suck at volume control.
once we trim the list
Big
of other
time.
senators, we'll be able to back up some of that and could get it onto this page, so that it's not an entire page on its own.
okay, page 9. Okay. Page 10. In the French version, I have a remark on line 23. The translation that says, Rapport 2, modification
Report 2, select amendments to the rules of the Senate.
amendments to the rules. Alors, je proposerais d'écrire amendement proposé au règlement du Sénat.
So in French, I would put amendement proposé. Modification is a broader concept, and it's really amendments that we're wanting to make to report 2 on the rules, not really modification. So I think that the French word amendement would be more appropriate.
Translation of select amendments to the rules in the English version. Oui.
And then, in that respect, were you indicating that in French it should say proposé, like proposed? And if so, then that should also be indicated in English, because these
Okay.
are not actual amendments, they are proposed amendments.
Proposed amendments, okay? Everyone agree with that?
Yeah. And one other point I had on this, in that section.
It's not so different than my high school
when we
students'
discussed
council.
that on October 17th, we may have been a little bit ambitious in what we expected to get done. So I'm just wondering if the timeline actually said that we would complete these first 3 things in winter 2024, and then the last one in spring 2024, or if some of those things were actually designated at that time in October to say fall 2023, and if they were, then I think we should take out those dates, so we're not misconstruing what was actually said in October. I mean, don't need to put.
Je vois pas de problème. I don't see any problem. Okay. Page 11. Oui.
So there's first of all just a spacing thing that I'll show people.
That is such a blue outfit,
drafters
like
later.
it
But then
jumps
in
out of the
footnotes,
screen.
So the first
She
time
wears
that a
her,
senator is mentioned
colours
in
on her
footnotes, and
sleeve.
There are many, many, many mentions of senators. It's always listed as the
Yeah,
honorable
power
so-and-so, comma, senator. I mean, I don't think in footnotes we need that lengthy of a description. Can we just put, just Senator so-and-so? Rather
Instead
than
of
having
the honorable?
so such and such, comma, senator. I mean, it's
Okay.
footnotes. We don't need to have that lengthy of a description.
Okay.
Hey, Minik, what's up? How are you?
Page 12. On page 13, I have something in the French and also in the English.
Hey, tinfoil,
Page
what's up?
13, on paragraph 17. Paragraph.
You identify the paragraphs from my standpoint, rather than the pages.
Yes, okay. So paragraph 17.
Paragraph 19 in that case, or rather 17.
I read it in French, and then it's the same in English. So it strikes me that when we say the Senate sits an average of 10 hours per sitting weeks, I thought it looks bad.
What's up, Blaze Lionheart? How you doing?
For one.
I'm doing
Second,
well,
it's an
thanks.
average, and an average, it depends also on the length of time that you calculate the average. And sometimes we sit 10 hours on Tuesday. So I thought that rather than having hours, we could say, as the House of Commons sits 5 days a week, while the Senate sits 3 days per week. Yes, Senatress Batters?
Actually, this was my point that I made a number of different times throughout, and I think it is, yes, sometimes we sit 10 hours on a Tuesday, but sometimes we sit much, much less than that for each of those 3 days of the week, if it's a week where there's not much government business or things like that. So that was my substantial point on this, is that there is a substantial difference, not just the days of the week that the House of Commons sits, and they sit 5 days a week every week unless there is a statutory holiday in the middle of it, which is rare because those are usually on non-sitting weeks. And so that doesn't really get the point across. And I know that there's a big difference, but what I was trying to explain with that was the major difference between how the House of Commons structures their committee agenda and how we do ours. And that's the reason, is that the Senate sits a lot less as a chamber, and we have made that deliberate choice to have our committees sit at times when the Senate is generally not sitting. But the House of Commons, they have a much different system.
Hey, Poets Market, what's up?
So that takes a large part of the point away, and yes, it is a big discrepancy. That's because it is a big difference between the two
I prefer
chambers.
that we say it differently. I know your point has been made, and you made it at the committee, you made it officially, everything is recorded here. But for such a summary, especially because an average is an average, and the standard deviation is very, very high on this average. So I would request much harder data to be able to specify that we sit an average of 10 hours a week, than how we picked that number. So if you don't mind, I would prefer, and I think it would give better justice to the work that Senator does than to say it otherwise.
What if we get that type of data from someone like the committee's directorate, from Charlotte Anwar, that sort of thing?
And
or we could also
show
say,
you how
and
depending on the period, depending on the period, you calculate the average, you can get what you want.
Well, sure, but we could also say something like, and the Senate frequently sits an average of 10 hours a week, and that is taking into consideration.
I prefer days. I think that the problem is days. It's not hours, it's days. It's days. The hours doesn't mean anything.
Well, it
and,
does.
And it shows it's a way to present things that is negative.
It's not negative.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
explaining the difference between why the House of Commons has committees sitting at the same time as the House of Commons, and that's because they sit a lot of hours. Yet the Senate, we have made this deliberate choice to have committees generally not sit when the Senate is sitting, and that's because we have a different structure. We also have a much different size. So I think it's something legitimate to point out, and simply to have me having made the point in numerous committee meetings and then not have it reflected in the report, I don't think is accurate. You can say some
Congratulations.
senators argue, as you have
Please,
throughout many
congratulations.
times in this report. Some senators point out that would be legitimate, because I have pointed this out many times, and I think it's an important point to make when we're talking about the study of committees.
So I have Senator Saint-Germain and Kutcher, but before, just don't take it personal, because when I read it, I didn't even remember that it was your point that you asked to put on. Senatrice Saint-Germain?
Moi, je pense que...
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I think that the information that we provide here is completely biased and only partial information. If we really want to make this comparison, it needs to be a proper comparison. The number of committees at the House of Commons, the number of committees on the Senate side, there's a comparable number, even though there's about 100 of us. And on the House of Commons side, there are some members that only have 1 or 2 committees that they sit on, whereas we often have more than 2 committees that we sit on to ensure that our Senate groups are properly represented. That's a hugely important dimension to capture here. Now, if we work on the basis of hours per sitting week, well, 10 is an average that does strike me as underplayed. But let's not forget that outside the sitting hours, there's also committee sitting hours. And how many senators have absolutely no free time when they're in Ottawa because they're sitting on a committee almost every evening, until late or late in the afternoon. So I do agree with you that it's important to talk about sitting days, but we also need to make the comparison with the number of committees on the House side and the number of committees on the Senate side and the number of senators vis-a-vis the number of members of the House of Commons.
I think the salient point in this is to demonstrate that there are differences between the House and the Senate. That's the salient point. And the data that demonstrates...
Stating the obvious there.
Pick and choose a gazillion pieces of data, including the quality of the ties that House members wear. So we need something simple and clear for Canadians to understand. I think, Senator Belmar, you have made it very clear and very simple for everyone to understand that there are differences. I think the point that you also make about the data and the statistical analysis of the data, if you were actually to do that, you'd have to take it at least 40, 50 years. And the standard deviation is so huge that averages are misleading and useless as a comparator. So that's, I would support your perspective.
Thank you. Senatrice Ringuette?
Well, I thought we were reporting on the Senate committees. I don't see why we would compare ourselves to the House of Commons that have a completely different
PIERRE
operating structure and ways of operation. What we want to do in this report is to talk about what we heard from the witnesses, and I don't recall our witnesses comparing the Senate committees to the House of Commons committee. It's two complete.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
Different operation. So honestly, I don't see why we would even want to bring forward comparing the Senate committee to the House of Commons. Like that's not what we want. That's not what we heard either from our witnesses. So I have great reservation in that regards, because it's only questioning how we would operate differently. And then we have to explain why we have to operate differently. So it's bringing forward a whole slate of details of why and when that is not needed in this report.
It's just not making any sense to her. You can see she is a sport.
This phrase,
If that's who you meant, I think she was a sport.
Here is that in the House of Commons, there are 337 members, and in the Senate, we're 105 and sometimes much less than that. So we could just say when comparing the Senate and the House of Commons committee structure, it is important to consider the significant difference in membership size in the House of Commons and of the Senate, period, because the rest of it is doesn't have anything to do.
She looks so confused.
Senatrice Batters and Senatrice Busson.
Thank you. With respect to evidence that we heard, we actually did hear evidence which occasionally talked about House of Commons committees and things that they had, things that we have differently. So we did hear some evidence on that, as well as I've made the point as a few times during this whole thing, whether we have senators sitting at that end of the table and being a witness, or sitting here and making comments as part of the study. I wasn't ever a witness, but I certainly had many points to contribute during it. So I don't think that that should be a distinguishing factor. So the fact that that I made this point throughout, others also made the point of differences with House of Commons committees, and certainly we can set out how many committees the House of Commons does have. They have actually several more than we do. I can't remember the exact number, but certainly the committees directorate people will know that. But there are many points in this report, in this draft report, that say one witness said, or some members of Rules Committee said. That doesn't mean that everyone agreed with it, but I think to simply just take it out just because some people expressed that opinion and others didn't share it isn't an accurate reflection of what was said. We did have this point of view made. I'm saying that that was a deliberate choice made by the Senate, and we made a choice to focus considerable time, given our fewer numbers. We made a choice to focus considerable time on committee study and to have that done during a time when our chamber isn't sitting, so that senators can devote major attention to that as compared to the House of Commons. It's a reason for explaining why there are differences between the two, and you know, there are benefits and other factors for both of them.
So there's a difference between the House of Commons and the Senate.
Someone
It
else
sounds
has
like
raised their
that's what
hand.
they're saying. Come
Senator
on,
Wu as well. Senator Bousson.
silly.
In my humble opinion, I think if we're going to, as you suggest, reword this paragraph, it might be helpful just to make reference to the fact that if we sit for an average of 10 hours a week, that a lot of senators' time is taken up outside of that, because it's a distinct decision of the Senate that we only sit during sitting hours by exception. And then that covers, for resourcing purposes, a huge explanation of the fact that 10 hours is a very small part of the time that we spend doing our work. And no comparison needed, really, to House or anything else.
And the fact is also, you know, if we have to compare, we have to compare. And this is not just only
It's not
one
helpful.
point. Senator Wu, Senatrice Saint-Germain, Senatrice Amending.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I propose we either adopt Senatrice Ringuette's suggestion by dropping that sentence, or we refer to days of the week rather than hours. It is a true statement, an unrefutable true statement, that we sit 3 days compared to the House sitting 5 days, whereas the statement about the hours may or may not be true, depending on your measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Senatrice Amending and Senator Wells.
Chair,
Saint-Germain, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to observe that if we start outlining the differences between the Senate and the House, then we have to do a more fulsome job. Either we go the full Monty, or we just be minimal, and that is, of course, the will of the committee. But I think pointing out just the sitting hours, it's a very misleading statement, without stating that in the House of Commons, committees meet while the House sits, and therefore they have so many more committee, you know, so either do the whole thing or drop it. That's my pedestrian point of view.
Senatrice Saint-Germain, Senator Wells.
And I fully support what my colleague.
Yeah, I know. Full Monty was pretty funny.
Numbers speaks regarding committees. At the House, they have 28 standing committees. We have 18. Remember that they are 338 potentially. We are 105 potentially. We have together 4 joint committees, and the Senate has 7 subcommittees. Some of them are meeting very often, those from CIBA and the Veterans Subcommittee. So numbers speaks, and we need to nuance. It's important.
Senator Wells and Senatrice Ringuette, et après ça, on va clore.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in accordance with Senator Omidvar as well, and the other part of this is, and there are so many differences, but there are some committees that have permission to sit while the Senate's sitting as a rule, and while we generally sit 3 days a week, there are other committees that do sit on a Monday. So I think trying to get into too much detail gets us away from what we're trying to do. And if there's relevance to it, then yes, let's put it in. But I don't think there's relevance to it in this case.
Thank you very much, Senator Wells. Senatrice Ringuette.
Well, therefore, I think because of where we're going with the discussion, I think there's a consensus. I would suggest that we would remove paragraph 17 in its entirety. It brings nothing to the discussion.
Senatrice Batters.
I like that lady. She's
there's
Sharp-tongued.
not even a will to have
Speaks her mind.
one senator mentioned or something like that, that I brought up this point. I am a deputy chair of this committee and made that point a number of times. We can nuance it, we can put the number of House of Commons committee in, but there is a number of points, frankly, throughout this report that I don't agree with it, but one, I can't deny that one senator or one witness said it, so it's going in the report. Like, will we take all of those types of things out too, just because not everyone agreed?
It's a matter of fact, Senator Batters. If we put numbers, they have to be solid numbers.
Let's
And
get
this
some.
number
They don't get
is
along.
not
You can tell they don't see eye to
because
eye.
it's an average, and it have a flavor on it. 37 members, that's a solid numbers. 105, that's a solid numbers. So if we want to be solid, we have to be rigorous. And you're so rigorous all the time. You're the rigor, but on that's only an opinion. It's because it's an
Let's-
average with a big
let's- we
standard
have-
deviation.
We have the ability to get the actual averages then, so
anyway.
we could get that.
Senator
They're having an
Fernandez.
argument, but they're smiling at each other.
I move that paragraph 17 be deleted from the report that we are considering.
Blue jacket, red jacket,
So we
that's
have
right.
a motion?
motion, yes.
A motion on the floor. So
And
is it a supporter on the motion? Pas besoin de support. Bon. Alors, who
We don't need that.
of dropping number 17 of the report? Who are against moving? 2. Abstention? 1 abstention. Okay, so adopted.
Just like that.
It's too bad, but. Page 14. Wait,
With respect to number 14, where it has the number of Senate vacancies, it's still listing it as of October 13th, 2023, so we should undoubtedly make that more current. That'll be deleted with the paragraph.
okay, that will be deleted with the paragraph that we just deleted. Okay? So, page 14, it's okay? Page 15? Page 14, you have something on 14?
Under paragraph 24 of that paragraph, line 23, as it exists on the draft, when it's talking about removing science and technology from SOCHI's mandate, there isn't anything specified in this section about where that was proposed to go, because I know that I believe that the same senators who were talking about that point also proposed where it would go, and if we just kind of leave it out of there, then in the report, it seems to be a bit of a gap in stating this. I know that there was testimony about it. I may not have agreed with that, but there certainly was testimony about that, so it should
Senatrice Somidvar,
correctly refer
since
to
you
it.
are the. Okay,
Senator Batters is right.
okay. Senator Roux?
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if we need to clarify that the recommendation on AFER, this is paragraph lines 11 to 16 on page 14, which talks about changing the title of the Foreign Affairs Committee to include the word development. That has been done, I understand. Would it be helpful to mention that?
Could you repeat because
Oh, okay, sorry.
Wait, okay.
Lines 11 to 16 talk
Wait.
about changing the name of our
okay.
foreign affairs, but I believe that's been done already.
No.
I'm
No,
Oh, it hasn't been done.
That's a letter that we received from the president after we had made our stylistic change in the first report when we
Okay.
went through. That came after that, and it's an official request from the committee.
Okay, the committee is already styling itself that way, so I thought it
okay.
had been done.
Okay.
But
okay.
thank you for the
But
clarification.
it's not in the rule 12-7.
Et voilà, merci
Maybe in
beaucoup.
the website, but not. Senatrice Batters?
Thank you. Also, with respect to the Foreign Affairs and International Trade Committee, So like the lines 14 to 16, where it's talking about adding, there was a proposal to add international human rights to Foreign Affairs Committee's mandate to avoid duplication. But there was significant pushback, as I recall it, I think by Human Rights Committee senators who said that that's absolutely a correct part of it.
It's said later on in the report. It is said later on in the report.
I don't think with that much, I mean, maybe there should be a brief reference or something like that there, so it doesn't kind of look like it was said unchallenged, because as I read that, and I didn't recall, and perhaps it was just only a brief reference, but that's a pretty significant thing that we're saying to make it look like Human Rights Committee is doing duplicative work, which I don't think they are.
Okay. Senator Somidval?
I agree completely with Senator Batters. On page 15, line
She seems like a
13,
pretty reasonable senator.
There is a reference to an opposing point of view, and I think it loses its currency unless it's included in paragraph line 11 to 16. We could say something like, however, other witnesses spoke against this recommendation, pointing out the important work the Human Rights Committee does. I think that is exactly what Senator Batters is, I think, wanting to.
Senators, if I could, because it is mentioned a little bit later, perhaps coming back to page 14 and that paragraph about foreign affairs, that paragraph could be concluded with, as noted below, Ritter expressed concerns about this proposal or did not agree with this proposal.
Okay. Page 14, it's done. Page 15 now. It's done too. Page 16. Okay, 17. Okay, 18. On page, I have something on page, paragraph 35. On page 17, paragraph 35, in the French version, the Rules Committee is not mentioned as being, however, 4 committees. In the French version, we do not spell it out that Rules can have his own order of reference.
C'est là, mais c'est tout petit.
Non, ça c'est en anglais.
It's there, but it's in very small print. No, that's in English. In French, it's actually not there, says the chair.
I would, we only say
RPD.
RPRD. I think we should spell it out.
Me too.
Just like the others.
Right. Because sometimes people, when they read, they say, well, what does it mean? Right, exactly.
It's acronyms.
Okay. Page 18. Senator Batters, wait.
At the end of the subparagraph C, membership, and lines 21 and 22, talking about the self-selection, some said self-selection approach is not strategic, may not result in the most balanced membership. Of course, we had another side to that, and I think that there should be a short sentence indicating that there was another, that others disagreed with that point of view.
Okay.
Awkward silence.
So we'll add that.
Weird.
Pay.
45, where it's listing all these very, I understand some may not like acronyms, but we did specifically have a page listing the abbreviations right at the start to avoid things like this. So footnote 45, when we set out all of those long committee names in a footnote, I think that that would be a very appropriate place to use abbreviations.
Okay.
And then the paragraph that goes on to page 19, so it's just the start of page 19. It's talking about, the number of senators on committees and that sort of thing. So the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Committee, it currently has 6 members. In this report, it talks about how it has 5 members. So I'm sure that that was changed as a matter of sessional order or something like that. But being as we currently have had 6 members on that committee for quite a while, I believe, we should probably explain what the current situation is and why it's different than what it says in this report it has. Even in a footnote, but some sort of reference to what the situation actually is, because it doesn't have 5 members right now, it has 6, and it has for quite a while.
Who else?
And the same would go for audit and oversight, which has 4 members now by sessional order, I believe.
Okay,
But in the rules, it has 3.
okay. So maybe it should be said, they have, but with the sessional order, okay. Okay, page 20. Yes, Senator Wu?
Just back up to page, I think it's 19, was it 19? Line 9, there's a sentence about decreasing committee membership to 9 should be considered due to perpetual vacancy.
Oui, s'il vous plaît.
Paragraph 43.
Because when
Yes,
we are
I'm
in the
sorry.
French version,
Wait.
it's better, it's not the same page nor the lines, so, but the paragraph is
Yeah,
better
para
reference.
43.
43.
Paragraph 43.
In that paragraph, it refers to perpetual vacancies. I think perpetual is the wrong word, because perpetual means never ending. So maybe just take the word perpetual out.
Out.
Yes.
Considered due to vacancies in the
Yeah,
Senate.
yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
qualifying
There's no need to qualify.
necessity. Yeah, perfect. It refers to the fact that compared to the other house where they have election time or people can just go out, here in the Senate, we have an expiring date. And the expiring date is very different from one another. Some years, everyone goes out, and some years, so. But I think you're right, there's no need for qualification. Page 20. 21. You have somebody? Okay, page 21. Merci, Sénatrice.
Thank you, Senator Meji. Page 21 is paragraph 51 to 56. Sorry, I hadn't understood, indeed.
Paragraphe 57 à 60.
Paragraphs 57 to 62. Paragraph 63 to 68.
J'ai quelque chose.
I have something to point out. So, paragraph 68, and it's the same issue.
Paragraph, but we have this sentence, a repetition on page 24, paragraph 68. The House of Commons has 338 members of Parliament, sit on average 35 hours per week. It's the same with a small. So we dropped it, so maybe we should drop it there too, close the paragraph. Some members of the R note that the rules maintains the important practice in the Senate to ensuring that senators can participate in chamber and committee proceeding without conflict. Some members of the rules note that the establishment of this rule was deliberate in recognizing that there are limited number of senators and a number of sitting hours per week. Point. We stop there. Do you agree?
Paragraph 63, the last sentence, some members of rules note that testimony from leaders of groups and caucuses has not been received on this matter at the time of reporting. I would add some members note that testimony from all leaders of groups, because Senator Tanis and I, we have testified.
Oui.
63.
Oui, de rajouter le mot from all. Parfait.
Senatrice Batters.
Senatrice Batters.
Just on that paragraph 68, obviously I make the same objection with respect to having my point of view completely struck from that paragraph, as I don't see that other points of view are happening. Thank you.
So you want to note, but do you want to vote? No.
Seems fruitless.
Thank you. From paragraph, then we're on page 24, 69 to 72. Uh, 73 to 77, page 25. Yes, Senatrice?
Sorry, I thought it was, I'm sorry, I went ahead. I was
On
on page
25?
26.
26, so paragraph 78 to 84, yes.
In paragraph 82, I think we should refer to that 2-hour evening suspension as it's properly referred to. I don't think we need to put the colloquial phrase that
Okay.
is included there.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Sounds pretty.
Okay. We delete that. Page 27, paragraph 85 to 90. I have a little comment, personally.
This seems pretty simple, the stuff they're talking about, does it not?
I don't know. We say that the volume of legislation received by LC, JC, and SOCHI has impeded their ability to undertake special study. I would add finance also, because they have, even though it's not maybe the number of bills, but it's the legislative work that's very big on finance, because they have the supply bills, so they have to review. So I would put finance, because I think we put finance in paragraph 90, but I think it's a bit, it should be on front, because I think it's one of the committee that works the most with the other two. Senator Black?
Thank you. I have no objection to that, but did we hear it? Did we hear it, or have we heard it just today?
No, Muckler
Okay, fair
from the
enough.
chair.
Fair enough.
Right, from the chair. Okay. So paragraph 86 for that. Okay. Paragraph 91 to 96. Yes, Senator Batters.
Thank you. Paragraph 93, on the second line of that paragraph, line 12 on the English version, the phrase "as they could require additional resources and time" is basically an exact replication of the previous paragraph 92. So that phrase, I think, should be taken out, but there is still a valid new point there, which talks about the new demands for members of the main committee who may be required to sit on vote, but just, I think that it needs to be, that duplicate phrase needs to be taken out.
Okay. 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 Paragraph 97 to 101. Oui.
So paragraph 98, just a couple little typo things, which I'll go through later, but one I would suggest changing in line 9 of that paragraph. Citizens, I'd suggest changing to Canadians, because of course they're not always citizens, but usually they're Canadians. Not always, but usually.
Okay. Okay. So you want to change hearing from Canadians, where they live is important, instead of citizens.
Which would cover it all.
Witnesses who are not Canadians.
Correct.
Who are overseas, so I think.
Individual.
Individuals.
Individual.
Experts.
Okay.
We can call them.
I agree.
They're
Individual.
debating semantics here, like.
102, paragraph 102 to 107. Okay, paragraph 108 to 115. Wait,
So paragraph 111, I just find this to be a bit of a strange comment. The second sentence of it. Prior to their appearance, witnesses should be informed that their testimony will be checked for accuracy. I feel like this is kind of a way of saying, thank you for coming, witnesses, but by the way, we're going to fact check you. Like, it's not very inviting to witnesses. I don't really like how that is worded at all.
was it said? Senator Kutcher?
Yes, thank you very much for that. Since we all agree we need to ensure that the testimony that we're getting from witnesses is actually accurate, and we need to sometimes fact-check the witnesses, and when we've done that, there have been problems in the testimony. I think it's very important for us to let witnesses know so that they won't be blindsided. I think that will improve the quality of the testimony, that witnesses take care to make sure that the information they bring to us is accurate. People may disagree with it, but it needs to be accurate. And giving them that heads up, I think, will help them prepare their testimony better.
Thank you, good point. Senator Wells?
Excuse me. I tend to agree with Senator Batters on this. Yes, it's important for witnesses to be accurate, but is it necessary for us to have this line in the report?
Or maybe it's to be checked. Maybe witness should be informed that their testimony should be accurate. Should be based on
Testimony probably should be accurate, right?
facts. Because
Sort of a
Shouldn't we
no-brainer.
assume that as they're witnesses, they're witness to something, their knowledge or their experience or their witnesses? We tend not to swear in witnesses because we have faith they'll be accurate or tell the truth. And while it might have been testimony, as Senator Kutcher said, I still question the necessity of having it included in the report.
I have Senator Batters, you express, Senatrice Mégy.
Ah, je peux?
Oui.
OK, merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Concerning any checks that would be made, most often it's when a witness refers to something specifically. For example, a study or something akin to that. Well, the onus is on us to check whether it was just their interpretation or if they're referred to verifiable facts. Of course, they can give their impressions, their own point of view. That can't be checked or verified because that's an impression. But when they're basing themselves on facts, quote-unquote facts, or a specific study, well, wouldn't it behoove us to make sure that it's not just their interpretation of the study or actually what the study says? So perhaps we need to...
En d'autres mots, quand ils...
In other words, when they present data, well, they need to refer back to where it came from. For example, Stats Canada, X, Y, or Z study, or research project. At the end of the day, we're talking about a suggestion here.
That committees have the capacity to check, have the capacity to fact-check witness testimony as needed. Furthermore, prior to their appearance, witness should be informed that they should reference their data.
I like Donald
That's
Platt
really
too.
neutral, and if you know that, then you get prepared instead when you.
I think that
Senator-
Senator Mégy makes a very important distinction and a very important point. As decades of reading medical literature, sometimes, the conclusions of an article aren't found.
Did
in
you
the
guys
matter
hear
of the
that?
article. Sometimes the person reading the piece conclude something that wasn't actually in the material.
I don't know where that
So
came
it's
from.
really it's really important for us. It's really important for us to be able to, if someone brings forward data.
Where's
to
that
let them
phone
know that
coming
we'll
from?
be looking at the data and not necessarily just taking their interpretation of the data.
Okay.
I think
Senatrice Batters?
That type of reference, as you were proposing about refer to data, well, that doesn't apply to all committees. Like some committees, it might. Legal committee probably doesn't. You know, so again, I just think it's the tenor of it. I personally don't want to really be associated with a comment that makes it sound like, thank you for coming, taking your considerable time to prepare a brief, to appear in front of us when you could be making money doing something else, practicing law or doing studies or different other sorts of things. You're helping us here, but, you know, like, mind yourself, we're going to be checking your, I just think that there's a much better way to approach that rather than put something in this Rules Committee report.
Peut-être la phrase pourrait,
Well, perhaps the sentence could end with this.
committee suggests that committees have the capacity to fact-check witness testimony as needed, point. And that's it. In other words, the committee should be able to do the checking. But I would feel at ease with that. Okay? Okay, so we'll do that. Thank you. Paragraph 112 to 115. Paragraph 116 to 120. Oui, Senatrice Batters.
Paragraph 117, the last part of that paragraph where it says that achieving unanimity can limit productivity. Perhaps, well, as we've seen here today, but then we just have a vote and we just go ahead. So I don't think that that last part should be so generally noted as if everyone thought that. Perhaps that's what some thought, but it's certainly not what others may have thought. So if we're going to make a general statement like that, it should be some members noted or something like that. There should be some indication that that was attributed to somebody in particular, or, you know, not that it was a general comment from the committee.
Could we, if ever, well, I tend to agree that maybe it's not necessary to do the but we could put a comma. It was noted that committees members usually attempt to build a consensus when drafting a report and recommendation, period. Do you agree? Because it was you that proposed that. It's a tribute to Senator Black. Fine with that. Fine with that, okay. So, period, okay.
Is it just me, or does anybody else find some of the things that they're discussing like menial or
Okay.
like probably not things that the senators should be discussing, like, or details that should have been worked out previous to this?
Oui, Senatrice Batters.
So paragraph 125 and line 21 of that, I would add in just a couple of words.
What's
also
up, angry
a view
Canadian?
That the collegiality, and I would add in the words, and communication established between members and witnesses cannot be replicated, because it's not just collegiality, but I think the ability to have, you know, instant communication and communication that's right there, I think, is also important. That was certainly discussed at length when we discussed that topic.
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, I know that I said it a
You
number of
said-
times.
Yes, yes,
yeah.
I agree
know
that
others,
you,
I think,
that's
I think
true
others
that
said
you
it
said
too.
it, but is it true that communication is better when than with hybrid?
Oh, absolutely. If I'm right here and I can talk to my
Wait,
colleague
wait.
right here beside me, rather than have to, I don't know, send him a text or a message on Zoom or something like that, if they're appearing in a hybrid format, definitely communication is an easier way to
Senatrice
happen.
Ringuette?
Technically, all committees are operating in a hybrid situation. most of the time, witnesses appear on.
The
by,
words do have
video
meanings,
conference.
Pierrette. You're
So
right.
technically, we are operating in a hybrid situation. So, like, I don't see, honestly, I don't see the purpose of this entire paragraph at all. Like, what are we saying? Because witnesses appear by video conference that they're not communicating with us as well as if they were sitting in the chamber? I don't think so. At least that's not my experience. So I believe that we should be deleting that entire prior paragraph.
Sénatrice Mégy? Ah, je pensais que...
I thought that you'd raised your hand, Senator. Senator Saint-Germain.
I'm just wondering what was said. I remember, I'm not sure that it involved the witnesses. It was related to senators only, not to witnesses.
It says, it's not the witness, it's
Yeah.
the members of the committee who said it. It's not the witness. So, oui, Sénatrice Batters?
Thank you. Then perhaps we can say, because both of those sentences in paragraph 125 say some members of Rules Committee, which I'm assuming is partially at least referring to me, as I made this point. So we could add in the collegiality, we can add in and communication established between members, fine if we take out and witnesses, that's fine. But I think that adding in the and communication is absolutely representative of what at least I said I know on that point. And if you delete the and witnesses, that's fine. I mean, there's a point made elsewhere about how witnesses who testify by hybrid generally seem to receive less questions and less attention in a hybrid meeting, and that doesn't seem to be disputed.
Senator Wu and then Senator Wells.
Not to take away from what Senator Batters thinks she said and wants to have reflected in the report, but I'm not sure it's a true statement to say that it cannot be replicated. That's a very strong word. There are ways of replicating communications and collegiality even in a hybrid model. So there could be a softer word that perhaps Senator Batters can come up with. It's different, yes. A hybrid approach is different from in-person, but to say that you cannot have any form of collegiality or communication in a hybrid format is an extreme statement. More difficult, maybe, or it's not the same, or something like that. Yeah.
Or maybe we can put an end to, in 25, say, some members of the rule are of the view that senators cannot as effectively participate or question witnesses in a hybrid community setting. Some members of the rules are also of the view that the collegiality and communication it could be.
Yeah, he's a cheater, that's for sure. He just keeps getting away with scandal after scandal. It's amazing.
Senator Wells and then Senatrice Batters.
Thank you,
Teflon.
Chair. If we're going to drop and witnesses in that last line on in 125, then we should also change between to among, if it's just going to be among members.
What? It's among. Okay. So
If we're going to drop
read
and
it
witnesses.
aloud what it would look like. Some members.
Some members of RPRD are also of the view that the collegiality established among members cannot be replicated in the hybrid committee meeting model.
Wait, okay, okay. Wait.
Were you suggesting not have and communication, or did you
Sorry,
just miss that?
I would include communication. It wasn't in.
That the collegiality and communication
Yes.
established among members cannot be replicated. We take out and witness, cannot be in the hybrid committee meeting model.
I would not say not be replicated. I would say that it difficult. Not be easily replicated, because it can be.
Okay,
Easily.
okay. I know by myself, I don't know you, but just this anecdote, when I am in an hybrid, sometimes I receive text messages and with the chat. There's the chat, but there's also a personal text message. In the House, it's people forget about that. So anyway, each one has his own experience about that. So there's pros and cons. Paragraph 127 to 131. Yes, Senator Batters.
Paragraph 128, line 9. That was my point about that compensating legal experts would have implications. I think we should add in the word significant implications.
I think that's
The
what
significant
Pierrette's
goes
talking about.
Definitely significant. If we want to
That
start paying,
I said that it's kind of
legal
menial,
assistance to legal
and
committee, we're
it
gonna
perhaps isn't. Maybe it's very
massively
important.
expanded budget.
It just seems. Maybe this is just what needs to be done.
Okay,
So who am I to say?
Paragraph 132 to 137. Paragraph 138 to 139. Wait.
I had my hand up for 137, where it's talking about.
She just shot her a dirty look. Did you see it?
Yeah, I was just wanting some clarification when it says that some members of Rules Committee suggest that committee chairs should provide a short overview of the study along with key findings and recommendations. Where was that being suggested? In the chamber? Because
Just a
I
moment.
believe
Which line? I'm sorry. I'm in
paragraph
the English version.
137,
27.
137,
37.
and lines 23 and 24, where it's talking about suggesting that committee chairs provide a short overview of the study along with key findings and recommendations. Where was that being suggested to do this? If it was suggested in the chamber, I believe that chairs already do that. Or they
Some
should do that.
witness did that.
Don't chairs already do that?
I think might be Wallen, but
Sénatrice,
oui.
si je peux. When reports are tabled in the chamber, they can be put on for consideration, but that is not always the case. And I think the proposal in this at this time was that when the report is tabled at that time, that there be a brief summary of the report so that there to increase awareness of the contents of that report, where normally it would be, I have the honor to table the 5th report of the Standing Committee on whatever, and that is all that is said at that time. So I believe the suggestion, I don't remember who exactly had made it. It was a member of the committee, but that's what the proposal was that at that time that there be a little bit more additional detail provided.
I thought that was pretty much always done. I know for legal committee reports, that generally is always done.
But sometimes we don't always do that. Okay. Okay. The last, no, it's not the last, paragraph 138 and 139. Okay, wait.
At the end of paragraph 139, to just make it clearer that, and again, this was my comment, that Senate Committees Directorate is responsible for supporting committees in developing communication strategies.
Yeah,
as I
Canada's
said,
in a bad
but I think
spot,
it should
please.
end with
That's
to promote
true.
the work of Senate committees.
Okay. We are now at the end of it, so there's no paragraph. It's Appendix A. Okay. Senator Saint-Germain?
I'm just wondering why we end the list of witnesses to November 21st, since we have additional witnesses after this and we have not reported yet. So what's the issue? And we refer to some leaders who were witnessed, not all of them. We made an edit. It's not, I don't want my name to be there, but it's not accurate. It's not, the last day we received the witnesses is not November 21st.
No, Senator, but I think when we had last prepared this draft, and also I think the committee would
You will
plan to
update?
deal with Rule 1218 almost as a separate standalone study, which is why it was not addressed more directly in here, but we can certainly add in the testimony from, I believe it was December 5th, if my memory serves correctly.
Okay.
Okay, we can,
So in terms of the evidence that was summarized in this report, it's only up until that day, so November 21st. It was the final chair of, I think it was the Finance
So
Committee?
your name will be in the report too.
The next one.
The report on the rules, because we are going to pursue the witness of the leaders next week with the other subject. Okay? Senator Batters?
Thank you. On page 39, the Tuesday, October 3rd witness, I noticed that former Senator Andrzejczyk, it's just listed as, for her as former committee chair, but it doesn't say what committees. And Senator Joyal, former Senator Joyal, who's in a similar situation, it does list for him which committee. So I think that it would be appropriate that Senator Andrzejczyk's also reflect that.
Right. Okay. So we are ready to put those changes and to...
Hey, Ella, what's up? How are you?
table The report, there's no recommendation. Right? The title.
Listening and reporting?
Wait, it's a report on... Résumé des témoignages.
Summary of the testimony on the structure and mandate of committees.
Committee structure and mandates, summary of evidence.
And it's going to be report 1. And report 2 would be amendment proposed to some rules, if we can get those. Okay? And then we will have the witness and the others report, and the report 2. So votre témoignage, sénatrice Saint-Germain, qui a...
Your testimony, Senator Saint-Germain, regarding the days, well, that would be in report 2. So there you go, colleagues.
We have made some
No
changes.
problem. It's fun to do. Thanks for
Committee
checking us out.
report, the draft report brought back here, or are you content to defer that, the final approval to steering? Okay, so the minutes will note that.
Okay, so we conclude our meeting today on that note.
Sounds like they're wrapping up.
We'll have an executive steering committee few moments after we close. Alors, merci beaucoup et on se voit la semaine prochaine pour prendre nos délibérations.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week to resume our deliberations on this important issue, and I hope that we'll be able to make some headway before the end of the session in June with a number of reports under our belt. Thank you very much. See you next week.
All right, they're wrapping it up, just like that. So that's a different look. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, watching that. That was a learning experience. That's the first time I've watched the business committee get to work. And I guess I have to take a step back to figure out if I think that's important work or not, or if that, whatever. Like, that's a committee meeting, and that's the type of work that they have to cover, because semantics are important, how things are worded, especially in policies. I get that. So it just seems like it reminded me of my high school student council or like a union meeting or like just a very regular committee. Like, I guess they weren't dealing with issues. Maybe that's the difference, that they were dealing with political or policy wordings rather than actual issues and debating those. So anyways, we'll check that out again. Who knows? My name's Ehren. This is Question Period Canada. I love hanging out with everybody here in the chat. Remember to try to keep it friendly in there. And yeah, we're just having fun here, learning as much as we can about Canadian politics. And we are learning quite a bit. I only started like 5 months ago and didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue how to make video. Didn't know how to do anything. But here we are now. So Not that we know how to do so much now, but we've figured out a couple of things. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to get running. Try to stay warm. Remember to have something healthy to eat, and take care. We'll be back tomorrow with question period, short videos, other videos, and who knows what committee meeting we'll be covering tomorrow. We'll wait and see. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. It's always a pleasure hanging out here, having a chat, talking to everybody, saying hello. And that's it. Have a good night. We'll catch you tomorrow. Take care.